Hi, Ashley here. Today I'm going to go over the second article that is in your recommended reading for the Understanding the Native American Experience assignment. Just like in the previous article, I will demonstrate a note-taking strategy that I personally prefer when it comes to paraphrasing more easily. So, this article is an 1832 letter to American people from a Choctaw tribal leader describing the removal of his people from their lands. So he's describing what he has experienced in witnessing people being removed from the lands. So I've already opened this website, and I'm going to go ahead and use MyBib, just like before, to cite my source. I just have to copy this, and I'm going to paste it right here into the box. Now, you'll notice here are all of the notes I took from when I read the petition by ladies in Steubenville, Ohio. And I didn't put anything in this column until I began working on my next source. So that just indicates to me, when I look at my notes later, which piece of information comes from source, and it makes it so much easier to keep everything organized. Now, let's look at this document. This letter, printed widely in American newspapers, was written by George W. Hawkins, chief of the Choctaw tribe, in response to the brutal Indian removals to new homes in the West. So this is when they're already starting to remove people from their homes, and he is responding to it. And you'll notice this is 2 years after the Indian Removal Act was signed, and it's the same year that John Marshall ruled that it was unconstitutional. To the American people, it is with considerable diffidence that I attempt to address the American people, knowing and feeling sensibly my incompetency. So here he's saying, I know I'm incompetent. I know that, I shouldn't be addressing you and that you might not see me as an equal. And believing that your highly and well-improved minds would not be well entertained by the address of a Choctaw. So he's saying, I know you don't want to hear from me. I know that you don't think I have anything worth saying. But having determined to immigrate west of the Mississippi River this fall, I have thought proper in bidding you farewell to make a few remarks expressive of my views and the feelings that actuate me on the subject of our removal. So he's saying this fall I'm going to be moving west of the Mississippi, so I would like to say goodbye to you, but before I say goodbye, I want to share with you my thoughts and feelings. I might as well, since I'm leaving anyway, so here we go. Believing that our all is at stake, and knowing that you readily sympathize with the distress of every country, I confidently throw myself upon your indulgence and ask you to listen patiently. So they're saying that the U.S. has sympathized with every country that has trouble, which that seems kind of important. Like, they pay attention to other countries that need support, and so we know that they have the capacity for feeling empathy or sympathy for other countries. So, I confidently throw myself upon your indulgence and ask you to listen patiently. I do not arrogate to myself the prerogative of deciding upon the expediency of the late treaty, yet I feel bound as a Choctaw to give a distinct expression of my feelings on that interesting, and to the Choctaws, all-important subject. So he's saying, I'm not so arrogant to think that I can decide upon how fast this treaty happens, but I need to express my feelings. We were hedged in by two evils, and we chose that which we thought the least. Yet we could not recognize the right that the state of Mississippi had assumed to legislate for us. So they don't think that Mississippi had the right Although the legislature of the state were qualified to make laws for their own citizens, that did not qualify them to become lawmakers to a people that were so dissimilar in manners and customs as the Choctaws are to the Mississippians. So they're saying that even though Mississippi has the right to make laws regarding their own people, that doesn't mean they have the right to make laws to apply to people much different from themselves, being the Choctaws that also live there. Even though Mississippi has the right to make laws for the Mississippians, it doesn't have the right that doesn't mean it had the right to make laws pertaining to the Choctaws, who are much different. Admitting that they understood the people, could they remove that mountain of prejudice that has ever obstructed the streams of justice, and prevent their salutary influence from reaching my devoted countrymen? We as Choctaws rather choose to suffer and be free than live under the degrading influence of laws, which our voice could not be heard in their formation. So they're saying we would rather be free than to live under the laws in which we don't have a voice. Much as the state of Mississippi has wronged us, I cannot find in my heart any other sentiment than an ardent wish for her prosperity and happiness. So he's saying, like, even though we feel like we've been wronged in this case, like, even though we feel like Mississippi did something bad to us, we still hope that the state of Mississippi and the people there find prosperity and happiness. I could cheerfully hope that those of another age and generation may not feel the effects of those oppressive measures that have been so illiberally dealt out to us, and that peace and happiness may be their reward. Amid the gloom and horrors of the present separation, we are cheered with the hope that ere long we shall reach our destined land, and that nothing short of the basest acts of treachery will ever be able to wrest it from us, and that we may live free. Although your ancestors won freedom on the field of danger and glory, our ancestors owned it as their birthright, and we have had to purchase it from you as the vilest slaves by their freedom. So they're saying that you won freedom on this field because you fought for it in the American Revolution. But for us, it was our birthright. We had freedom before, but you came and now we have to purchase it from you. So he's saying that we hope that in the future people will prosper and have hope, and we also hope that when we get to our land that nothing will be able to take it away from us. Even though we're moving now, we hope that you won't betray us again. We've been betrayed. We had treaties. We have been betrayed before. We have treaties, but we are moving. However, if our new homes are taken away from us again, that would be incredibly treacherous. There we go. Yet it is said that our present movements are our own voluntary acts. Such is not the case. So he wants people to know, like, look, we're not moving because of our own voluntary acts. They don't have a choice. We found ourselves like a benighted stranger, following false guides until he was surrounded on every side with fire and water. So he believed that these treaties that he was making were going to benefit their people, but then he found out that he gave too much power to people who want to oppress him. The fire was certain destruction, and a feeble hope was left him of escaping by water. A distant view of the opposite shore encourages the hope. To remain would be inevitable annihilation. Who would hesitate, or who would say that his plunging into the water was his own voluntary act? Painful in the extreme is the mandate of our expulsion. We regret that it should proceed from the mouth of our professed friend, for whom our blood was commingled with that of his bravest warriors on the field of danger and death. So he's saying, here he says, if you're stuck between fire and water, and you know you can't go into the fire because you're going to die, fire kills people, the only option is to go into the water, then who could say that going into the water was your choice when you didn't have a choice? That's a very powerful piece of writing there. And then he also says, it's incredibly painful that we've been expelled from our land, especially when we thought that we had a friendship with the United States. We are saddened that we have been expelled from our land by someone who pretended to be our friend. And then they say, for whom our blood was commingled with that of his bravest warriors. We even fought alongside the American people in battle to earn freedom from, this is probably during the American Revolution that he's talking about. So we sent our soldiers, our warriors, to help the American people. We thought we were friends. We thought that we were comrades. But now you're kicking us out of our land. But such is the instability of professions. The man who said that he would plant a stake and draw a line around us that never should be passed was the first to say he could not guard the lines, and drew up the stake and whipped out all traces of the line. I will not conceal from you my fears that the present grounds may be removed. I have my foreboding. Who of us can tell after witnessing what has already been done what the next force may be? So he's saying, like, you've already moved us before. You've already told us where you wanted us to live. And I worry that once we move, you're going to do this to us again. We have already been moved before. The U.S. has already told us where to live and has drawn boundaries for us. We are worried that once we move, the same thing will happen to us again, since it has happened before. So he's saying, who's to say that you're not going to do this to us again and again and again? And he has a good point. I ask you in the name of justice for repose for myself and for my injured people. Let us alone. We will not harm you. We want rest. We hope, in the name of justice, that another outrage may never be committed against us, and that we may for the future be cared for as children, and not driven about as beasts, which are benefited by a change of pasture. He's saying, like, we are not a threat to you. Please, just leave us alone once we are in our new land. Please do not bother us and ask us to move again and again. Please do not try to interfere with our lives. They are not a threat. They just want to live in peace, and they hope that in the future they will be respected and seen as people worth protecting, not as animals to be moved around the country against their will. Taking an example from the American government and knowing the happiness which its citizens enjoy under the influence of mild Republican institutions, it is the intention of our countrymen to form a government assimilated to that of our white brethren in the United States, and nearly as their condition will permit. So he's saying, we intend to form a government just like your government. And we want our government to be assimilated with your government because we don't want to give you any cause to, see us as outsiders or anything like that. We know that in order to protect the rights and secure the liberties of the people, no government approximates so nearly to perfection as the one to which we have alluded. As east of the Mississippi, we have been friends, so west we will cherish the same feelings with additional fervor, and although we may be removed to the desert, still we shall look with fond regard upon those who have promised us their protection. Let that feeling be reciprocated. So he's saying, even though we're enduring this, we're going to continue to see you as our friends. We're going to continue to respect you, so please respect us back. Friends, my attachment to my native land was strong. That cord is now broken, and we must go forth as wanderers in a strange land. I must go. Let me entreat you to regard us with feelings of kindness, and when the hand of oppression is stretched against us, let me hope that every part of the United States, filling the mountains and valleys, will echo and say, "Stop, you have no power. We are the sovereign people, and our friends shall no more be disturbed. We ask you for nothing that is incompatible with your other duties." So he's saying, please be kind enough to protect us from anyone who tries to oppress us. Let everyone stand up together for our rights. We go forth sorrowful, knowing that wrong has been done. Will you extend to us your sympathizing regards until all traces of disagreeable oppositions are obliterated, and we again shall have confidence in the professions of our white brethren. Here is the land of our progenitors, and here are their bones. They left them as a sacred deposit, and we have been compelled to venerate its trust. It is dear to us, yet we cannot stay. My people are dear to me. With them I must go. Could I stay and forget them and leave them to struggle alone, unaided, unfriended, and forgotten by our great father? I should then be unworthy of the name of a Choctaw, and be a disgrace to my blood. I must go with them. My destiny is cast among the Choctaw people. If they suffer, so will I. If they prosper, then I will rejoice. Let me again ask you to regard us with feelings of kindness. So he's saying, please help us build a mutual friendship of kindness and respect, and that after this, my people will no longer suffer. Oh, I did that wrong. So he wants the relationship between the U.S. and the Choctaws to heal, but it will require them to be mutually respectful to one another, protecting the sovereignty of each group. So that brings us to the end of this very heartfelt letter, where he ends with, please regard us with feelings of kindness. Anyway, thank you for watching, and next we'll go over our very last letter.